I had imagined this night 1,000 different ways. In most of them, I was sitting quietly on my porch with a glass of whiskey, staring out at my tiny backyard in my modest three-bedroom ranch home, the same home I lived in for more than 30 years, thinking about the long road that had brought me here. 40 years building Apex Biodyne, 40 years of 4 a.m. lab days, of begging investors, of eating ramen and instant coffee, of employee meetings, of failures, of breakthroughs, of patents, of clinical trials. My late wife Laura used to joke that if I ever put as much energy into relaxing as I did into working, I'd have solved world hunger from a hammock. But tonight wasn't a quiet night. Tonight, I was at Laurerie, the most exclusive restaurant in the city, a place where the cheapest glass of water cost more than my monthly electric bill, a place where the walls were covered in original art, the chandeliers were hand-cut crystal imported from Paris, and the tables were draped in linen so white they practically glowed. A place I never would have chosen for myself, but my daughter Emily loved places like this, and her husband Ryan loved them even more. He walked into restaurants like Laurerie as if he owned them, shoulders thrown back, chin lifted, eyes scanning the room for people he thought were important enough to impress. He lived for that fleeting moment when people saw him with a beautiful wife and a wealthy father-in-law and assumed he belonged. He never did, but I was too blind to see it clearly until tonight. When I sold Apex Biodyne for $60 million, I felt something in my chest break open, relief, grief, and the sudden terrifying freedom of not having a mission for the first time in my life. I wanted to celebrate with the only family I had left. Emily arrived in a shimmering silver dress, her hair done in soft curls, her perfume subtle and familiar, the same one Laura used to buy her when she was in college. She walked toward me with a bright smile, too bright, almost rehearsed. Ryan followed wearing a suit far more expensive than anything I'd ever owned. He greeted me with a hug that felt like a handshake wearing a costume. "Dad," he said, gripping my shoulders, "tonight is all about you." I should have known. I should have known the moment they sat down, the way they leaned in, their smiles stretched tight across their faces, their eyes constantly flicking toward my wine glass. But I wanted, God help me, I wanted, to believe they loved me. The evening began perfectly, too perfectly. Emily complimented the restaurant choice, even though I knew she had picked it. Ryan toasted the greatest businessman in the family, raising his fancy water like it was champagne. They asked questions about the sale, about the transition, about the assets, about the logistics and the patents, questions they'd never cared about before. They weren't celebrating me. They were circling me, waiting. That fake warmth between us dissolved the moment my phone vibrated with the final confirmation call. "Excuse me," I said, rising from my chair. "This is important." Ryan's eyes sharpened, just for a second. Emily's fingers tightened subtly around her wine glass. I didn't notice, not then, but looking back, it was the first crack of truth. I stepped into the marble-floored lobby, the sound of soft piano music echoing from the bar. I answered the call. "Mr. Shaw," the voice said, "we can confirm the $60 million wire transfer has cleared. Congratulations." For a moment, everything in the world went still. My shoulders loosened. My lungs filled deeper than they had in years. I smiled, really smiled, for the first time since Laura died. It should have been the happiest moment of my life. But happiness is fragile. It doesn't survive treachery. When I turned to go back to the table, a young waiter stepped into my path. He was barely 24, with nervous eyes and trembling hands. "Mr. Shaw," he whispered. I frowned. "Yes." He looked over his shoulder, checking if anyone saw him talking to me, then back at me with a terror I recognized instantly. Not the fear of getting in trouble, the fear of seeing something he shouldn't have seen. "My name is Evan," he said. "Sir, I'm sorry. I'm new here. I shouldn't even be talking to you, but I saw something." I grew still. "What did you see?" "It's your daughter," he whispered, "and your son-in-law. When he distracted you, when he asked you about the painting, she poured something into your wine." At first, the words didn't make sense. The world slowed down around me. My heart didn't beat. It slammed. "She what?" I asked quietly. "A vial," he said. "A tiny brown glass vial. She shook something into your wine. A powder. A white powder. The ground felt like it tilted beneath me. For a long second I didn't speak. Couldn't speak. Something inside me cracked. Not loud, not visible, but deep, like a beam splitting inside a building no one knows is collapsing. "Are you absolutely certain?" I breathed. "Yes," he whispered. "Sir, I swear on my life, I saw her hide the vial in her purse." He wasn't lying. There was no reason to lie. And his eyes, those wide, terrified eyes, held the unmistakable truth of someone who had just witnessed a crime he couldn't comprehend. My voice came out steady, though my blood had turned to ice. "Thank you." I reached for my wallet, pulled out 5 crisp $100 bills, and pressed them into his shaking hand. "You didn't see anything, Evan. Do your job. Go home. Never speak of this again." His eyes widened. He nodded quickly and disappeared behind a curtain of silver drapes. I stood there alone. Alone with the truth. Alone with my betrayal. My daughter, my Emily, had tried to drug me. Not kill me. No, this was something worse. Something calculated. Something clinical. I straightened my suit. I smoothed my hair. I forced my face into an expression of gentle confusion, even as a storm raged inside me. Then I walked slowly back to the table. Emily looked up, her smile bright and rehearsed. "Everything okay, Daddy?" "Yes," I said quietly. "Just work." I sat down. The wine glass sat in front of me. Innocent, elegant, deadly. But now I knew. It wasn't meant to kill me. It was meant to break me, to make me look like I was losing my mind, to make me incompetent, to seize my fortune the moment it landed. I forced myself to breathe, to think, to become the man I used to be, the man who built a multi-million-dollar empire with nothing but strategy and grit. I waited. And then, with a small stage accident, a bumped elbow, a spilled glass of water, a few seconds of Ken, I switched the wine glasses. The glass meant to destroy my mind was now sitting in front of Emily, and she didn't suspect a thing. She lifted her glass with a smile, my glass, and toasted with me. "To family," I said, "to getting everything you deserve." She smiled wider, not knowing the weight of those words, and she drank. For 15 minutes I watched, I listened, I pretended to eat, and then I saw it. The first blink, too slow, too heavy. The first slurred word, the first confused frown. And I knew the powder was doing exactly what it had been designed to do. Emily's perfect smile faltered. Her fingers trembled. The room spun for her, a room that had been spinning for me in their plan. She reached for Ryan. Her voice cracked. And then she collapsed. Her body twitched. Her eyes rolled back. The restaurant froze. Ryan froze. And I rose. "My God, Emily, someone call 911. The entire room erupted into motion. Glass shattered. Voices rose. Chairs scraped. Ryan stood rigid, horrified, but not because his wife was collapsing. Because the plan had collapsed. I knelt beside her, gripping her hand, playing my role perfectly, the terrified father. But inside I felt nothing but a cold, burning answer to the one question that had haunted me for 3 years since Laura died. Was I wrong to trust them? No, I wasn't wrong. I was foolish. And now the consequences of their betrayal were unfolding exactly as fate, in my own hand, dictated. Emily convulsed. Ryan panicked. The waiter who had saved my life ran to call the ambulance home, and the first sirens began to scream in the distance. The night wasn't ending. It was only beginning. The trap they set for me had become the trap they fell into, and I wasn't done yet. The house was too quiet the next morning, the kind of quiet that clings to your skin as if the walls themselves were holding their breath, waiting for something terrible to happen. I woke up with a stiff neck, because apparently Simone's guest room was actually a storage closet pretending to be a bedroom. One thin mattress, a broken fan, and a window that didn't close all the way. I had paid for half this house for 10 years, and yet here I was, sleeping like a squatter. Typical. I pushed open the door and stepped into the hallway. The air smelled like burnt toast and cheap cologne. Simone and her husband, both disasters in human form. I tightened my robe and headed toward the kitchen. As I approached, I froze. Their voices were low, too low, the kind of whispering that people do when they're plotting something they shouldn't. She won't see it coming, Simone murmured. My stomach dipped. Are you sure? Her husband Terrence asked. She's nosy and smart. She's desperate, Simone snapped. And that's even better. Desperate people don't think straight. Just keep your mouth shut and follow my lead. I leaned closer. A floorboard creaked. Silence crashed through the kitchen. Terrence spoke first. Did you hear that? My pulse slammed. I backed away slowly, then fast walked toward the bathroom like I had totally, absolutely been here the whole time and not, in fact, eavesdropping like a seasoned spawn. The bathroom door shut with a click. I leaned my forehead against it, breathing hard. What the hell were they planning? Nothing good. That much I knew. After 5 minutes of fake bathroom sounds and real panic, I stepped out and walked toward the kitchen like everything was normal. Simone was at the table scrolling on her phone, smiling like a snake in lipstick. Terrence was washing dishes at a speed no human uses unless they were doing something wrong. Morning, I said. Simone looked up slowly. Oh, look, Sleeping Beauty is awake. I ignored her and poured myself some coffee. It tasted off, bitter, metallic. I set the mug down. Who made this? I did, Simone said. Why? Too fancy for your tastes? I didn't say anything. You didn't have to. She smirked. You never have to. Your face speaks for you. I pushed the mug away casually. Simone noticed. Her eyes narrowed just a fraction. Terrence cleared his throat. You working today? Yeah, I lied. Double shift. Simone rolled her eyes. Always working, always broke. Must be a terrible combination. My jaw clenched, but I held my tongue. I had no energy for her poison today. I grabbed my bag, stepped outside, and closed the door. When I got into my car, I didn't turn the engine on. Instead, I sat there shaking, replaying their whispered conversation. She won't see it coming. Desperate. Follow my lead. Whatever they were planning, whatever was brewing in the shadows of that house, I needed to know. And fast. I didn't actually go to work. Instead, I drove 2 blocks down and parked behind Mr. Harper's old bakery. From there, I had a clear view of the house. After 20 minutes, the front door opened. Simone and Terrence stepped out, dressed too nicely for 2 people who hadn't had jobs in years. She had on heels. He wore a shirt that still had a tag crease on it. They got into their car and sped off. I waited 5 minutes, then walked back home. Inside, everything looked the same, or so I thought. Then I saw it on the living room table, a stack of papers. I moved closer. My throat dried. They were legal forms, copies of my ID, my signature, and bank information. I froze. Oh my God! They were trying to replicate my signature, and not just sloppily, perfectly. They'd practiced, dozens of times, page after page of my name, my handwriting, my style. A shiver ripped through me. This wasn't petty sibling drama. This was identity theft, and possibly more, because one document stood out. A home equity withdrawal form for $140,000. The house I had been paying for. The house my mother left to both of us. They were planning to drain it dry and leave me with nothing. My hands shook as I flipped through the pages. Then I heard the front door. Panic flared. They weren't supposed to be back so soon. I didn't have time to put anything back exactly the way it was. I just shoved the papers under the cushion of the couch and sprinted down the hallway like a fugitive. The bedroom door clicked shut behind me. My heart hammered so loudly I could hear it in my throat. Footsteps. Simone's voice floated through the house. Terrence, something feels off, he grunted. You're paranoid. No. Simone's footsteps got closer. She left her mug full. She never wastes coffee. Really? That's what gave me away? Terrence groaned. Maybe she didn't like the flavor. She always likes coffee, Simone snapped, and she didn't check her schedule board. She always checks her schedule board. I squeezed my eyes shut. They had memorized my habits, my routines. They knew me like hunters know their prey. Her footsteps were coming toward the hallway, toward me. I needed an excuse, something believable. So I did the first stupid thing my brain came up with. I opened the closet door and grabbed the vacuum cleaner. When Simone opened my bedroom door without knocking, I was standing there with the vacuum like I had been caught mid-cleaning montage. She blinked. I blinked. Then I said, "Hi." She stared for 3 long seconds, her eyes scanning me, scanning the room, scanning the hallway behind her. "What are you doing home?" she asked finally. "I forgot something." I forced a shrug. "Decided to clean while I was here." Her eyes narrowed, but she stepped back. "Fine, but don't go in the living room. Terrence is fixing something." I nodded, acting casual even though my ribs felt too tight to breathe. She closed the door. Seconds passed. Then footsteps faded. Then voices drifted away. Only when I heard their laughter in the kitchen did I finally release the breath I'd been choking on. I sank onto the bed. My hands were trembling beyond control. They were planning to steal everything from under my feet, from my hands, from my future, and I had no one to tell, no one on my side, except me. And for the first time in a long time, I felt something inside me shift, something quiet, sharp, and terrifyingly clear. This wasn't just betrayal, this was war, and I had no intention of losing. I lay in the dark, staring at the cracked ceiling of the tiny storage room turned bedroom, listening to every creak of the old house, every shift of the wind, every footstep Simone or Terrence made walking around like they owned the place. They didn't know I knew. They didn't know I'd seen the forged documents, my signatures copied like a ghost version of myself, trapped on paper. They didn't know I had heard them whispering about some plan I wouldn't see coming, but I did see it, and now I had to stay awake long enough to understand the full shape of their scheme before they made their next move. The clock on the wall ticked louder than usual. Tick, 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 like each second was warning me I didn't have much time. At 1:13 a.m., I finally forced myself up. The air was cold, the floor even colder. I tiptoed to the door and pressed my ear against it. Silence. Good. I opened the door slowly, peeking into the hallway. The house was dark except for the faint glow coming from under Simone and Terrence's bedroom door. They were still awake. Of course they were. Two snakes lying awake in the dark, plotting their strike. I backed into my room and shut the door, locking it quietly. Then I opened my phone flashlight and brought out the small notebook I kept hidden in my bag. Something I called my life inventory, a habit from years of being the responsible one. Tonight it became a war journal. I wrote, "Things I know, Simone and Terrence are forging my signature. They want a 140,000 home equity withdrawal. They think I'm desperate. They think I'm alone. They think I'm predictable. Things they don't know. I saw everything. I heard them whispering. I'm not predictable. I'm not weak. And I'm not leaving this house without a fight." I closed the notebook and slid it back under the mattress. A plan was forming, slow, messy, terrifying, but a plan all the same. I just needed one more thing, to find out exactly when they planned to strike, because once I knew that, I could tear their entire scheme apart from the inside. The next morning didn't feel like a morning. It felt like an ambush disguised as one. I walked into the kitchen at 7:02 a.m., and the first thing I saw was Simone's back turned to me as she fried eggs. Something she never did unless she wanted something. Terrence sat at the table with the morning newspaper open, but he wasn't reading. He was watching me, studying me. The air felt thick, like invisible hands pressing against my neck. "Morning," I said. My voice sounded normal. My heart was a riot. Simone turned with a bright, fake smile. "We made breakfast." A red flag so big it could have been seen from space. "You?" I asked. "Cooking?" Terrence snorted. Simone shot him a glare so sharp it could slice bricks. "I cook all the time," she said. "Yeah," Terrence muttered. "For Instagram, not real humans." Simone's smile tightened, but she kept it glued on. "Sit, eat." I didn't, she frowned. "Sit, Keisha." There it was, the slip, the command, the tone she used when she wanted control. I cleared my throat. "I'm not hungry. I have an early meeting." Terrence folded the newspaper. "On a Sunday?" Crap, I improvised. "Yeah, budget review." Simone's eyebrow flicked up. "A review you didn't mention last night?" "Didn't think it mattered, did?" Silence. Then Simone set the spatula down and leaned against the counter. "Where were you yesterday afternoon?" she asked casually. My pulse jumped. "Out." Doing what? Errands. What errands? Simone, I forced a sigh. Why are you interrogating me? She blinked, slow, calculating. No reason, she said sweetly. Just wondering if you were around. Terrence looked up sharply at that. They were fishing, seeing if I had been into the house while they were gone, seeing if I saw the documents, seeing if I knew. I gave her nothing. No reaction, no hesitation. Like I said, I repeated, errands. Simone stared for a beat longer, then she plastered a smile back on. Fine, whatever. She turned off the stove, suddenly uninterested in the breakfast. Terrence stood. They exchanged a look I didn't like. We're going out for a bit, Simone said too lightly. Enjoy, I replied. But inside, I was ice, because the way she said it, forcing cheer, forcing normalcy, it meant something was happening today. And I needed to follow them. I waited exactly 3 minutes after they left, then grabbed my keys and ran to my car. They didn't drive far. In fact, they drove exactly 3 blocks over, to First National Bank. My stomach dropped. I parked behind a row of hedges and watched them walk inside. Terrence held a folder. Simone held her purse and her confidence like a weapon. They weren't wasting time. They were trying to pull the money today. That meant they had documents ready, documents they forged using my signature, documents they were confident would work, because they had something else, a witness, someone pretending to be me. My palms went cold. No, not pretending. Someone whose face matched mine enough for them to think they could get away with it. A cousin, a friend, some random girl desperate enough for cash. Simone would do something that disgusting. I watched the bank doors swallow them. I had no choice. I got out of my car and walked toward the entrance, slipping my phone into my purse and keeping my head down. Inside, the bank smelled like printer toner and carpet shampoo, a familiar scent from years of paying bills here. I stood at the back of the line. From here, I couldn't see Simone and Terrence, but I could hear murmurs. Then I heard Simone's voice clearly. Yes, my sister Keisha is with us. She's just parking. My breath caught. She was telling the banker I was coming. To sign, to confirm, to finalize the theft of my life. Before I knew what I was doing, I stepped out of the line. I moved toward the side hallway that led to the manager's office. I didn't knock. I walked straight in. The manager, Mr. Dalton, looked up, startled. Keisha? I exhaled hard. I need to speak to you, now, privately. He stood immediately. Is everything all right? No, I said. And you're about to be dragged into something illegal if you don't listen to me. His eyes widened. Follow me, he whispered, locking the office door. His office felt too small for the panic swelling inside me. I told him everything, quick, sharp, concise. The forged documents, the signatures, the withdrawal forms, the fact that Simone and Terrence were here right now trying to finalize a massive illegal loan on a house I co-owned. Mr. Dalton's face went pale. Are you telling me they forged your legal consent? Yes. Do you have proof? I pulled out my phone and showed him the video I recorded last night. The one thing I hadn't told anyone about. When I returned home and saw the documents on the table, I had instinctively pulled out my phone and recorded everything. Every page, every forged signature, every incriminating detail. Mr. Dalton watched silently, the tension in the room electric. Then he nodded sharply. This is fraud, he said, serious fraud, and the bank cannot and will not move forward with any documents presented today. Relief hit me so hard my knees weakened for a second. But, he added, we need to handle this carefully. If they know you're here, they may become aggressive. Oh, they absolutely will, said. He swallowed. Stay here. Then he stepped out of the office and closed the door gently behind him. I moved to the blinds and peeked through the slats. I saw Simone at the counter, Terrence next to her, tapping his foot like a man who owed money everywhere. A banker leaned over the counter, whispering something. Simone's face stiffened. Terrence's head jerked sharply. Seconds later, Mr. Dalton joined them. Simone's eyes widened the moment she saw him. She looked scared, then furious, then cold. I watched her nod slowly, lips tightening. Terrence grabbed the folder and stuffed it into his jacket. They exchanged a few fast, angry words with Mr. Dalton. Then they turned, and Simone saw me through the office window. Our eyes locked, just for a fraction of a second. But it was enough. Her expression twisted into something I'd never seen before. Not annoyance, not jealousy, not resentment, pure, fiery hatred. Then she turned away sharply and stormed out of the bank. Terrence followed. My pulse thudded. I had stopped them today. But stopping them once wasn't the same as being safe. Simone wasn't going to back down. She wasn't going to forgive, and she definitely wasn't going to forget that I got in her way. If anything, this was the moment she decided she wanted to destroy me completely. When I got home, their car was already in the driveway. That meant they were inside, waiting, plotting. The sun was hot on my neck as I stood there staring at the front door, a door that suddenly felt like the mouth of a predator. Inside that house were two people who had tried to steal my future, two people who now knew I had stopped them. Everything felt too still, too quiet, too dangerous. I gripped my keys hard enough to hurt. This is my house too, I reminded myself. My hands shook as I unlocked the door. The moment I pushed it open, I knew something was wrong. The house was silent, but not empty silent. It was waiting silent. I stepped inside. Then I heard her voice. Simone, from the living room. Cold, controlled, deadly, calm. Close the door, Keisha. I did, not because she told me to, but because the air was suddenly heavy with the knowledge that whatever was coming, it wouldn't end in this room. It wouldn't end tonight. This was just the opening strike. The real war had officially begun. The living room was dim, lit only by the slant of sunlight slipping through the half-closed blinds. Dust danced in the beams like tiny warnings. Simone stood in the center of the room, arms crossed, feet planted. Terrence sat on the edge of the couch, elbows on his knees, head bowed like he was praying or preparing. The moment I stepped in and shut the door, the click echoed like a gunshot. Simone didn't blink. Where were you? She asked. Not a scream, not a snarl, a quiet, surgical strike. At the bank, I answered, her jaw clenched. Wait, you know why. She blinked once, slowly. Terrence, she murmured, did you hear that? He didn't look up. He just rubbed his forehead. Simone took a step toward me. You went to my bank meeting. My bank meeting? I repeated. You mean the meeting where you tried to steal $140,000? Her lips twitched downward. You don't own this house alone. You don't own it alone either. I snapped back. Another step, close enough that I could see the flicker in her eyes. It's not stealing, she said. It's taking what I deserve. I laughed. Didn't mean to, but it burst out anyway. What you deserve. You haven't paid a bill in 7 years, Simone. Her nostrils flared. Terrence muttered, both of you need to calm down. Shut up, Simone barked at him, loud and sharp. He shut up. She turned slowly back to me. You think you're the hero, don't you? The responsible one. The one Mom loved. The one who saved everything. The one who sacrificed, she said in a mocking voice. Someone had to, I fired back. While you were off ruining your life every 2 months. She stepped even closer, finger raised. Don't talk to me about ruining things, Keisha. You think just because you have a good job now, you're better. You think because you can pay bills, you're the stable one. Let me tell you something. No, my voice was steady. Let me tell you something. She froze. You forged my name. You tried to take out a loan using my identity. You tried to bankrupt me. Her lip curled. You weren't supposed to find out yet. That sentence, those words, they hit like a punch. You weren't supposed to find out yet, meaning she always intended for me to find out. After the money was gone, after the house was gone, after the damage was irreversible. My chest tightened. You were going to blindside me, I whispered. You were going to take everything Mom left us. I deserve it more, Simone growled. You had your chances. You've had stability your whole life. I had to fight for every scrap I got. I had nothing, Ahiwa. You had the same childhood I did. No, her voice cracked. I had expectations. You had potential. everyone. Treated you like the golden one, the smart one, the successful one. The good daughter. I was the leftover, the one people shook their heads at, the one nobody thought would ever do anything right. I swallowed. Simone wasn't crying, but her voice was breaking. Do you know what that does to somebody? She whispered. When your own family decides you're the disappointment before you even grow up? My heart twisted. For a moment, just a moment, I saw the Simone I grew up with, the sister who always wanted attention, affection, validation, the girl who never got enough of any of it. But then her eyes hardened again. And now you think you can decide what I get and what I don't? I'm not deciding anything, I said gently. But you can't take— Oh, I can. I'll buy in. Buying can, she snapped, and I will. You won't stop me again. Terrence finally looked up. Keisha, maybe you should just let it go. We really need the money. I turned on him. If you speak on this one more time, I swear. Simone stepped between us. Don't threaten him. Then tell him to stop talking. Simone's expression twisted. Get out. I blinked. This is my house too. Not anymore. Get out. I stood in my ground. No. Her face contorted with rage. Years, decades of jealousy, resentment, bitterness boiling out in one expression. You want a war? She whispered. Fine, but you won't win. I swallowed the fear swelling in my throat. I already won today, I said quietly. That's why you're angry. Simone lunged, her hand curled around my arm before I could step back. Her nails dug deep enough to draw heat. Terrence jumped up. Simone, stop. But she wasn't listening. You think you're better? She hissed inches from my face. You think you're safe? You think you're untouchable? I can ruin you faster than you can blink. I ripped my arm free. Try, I said. My voice was steel. Simone wasn't expecting that. She blinked, just once. Then she stepped back, her expression flattening into something far more dangerous than rage. Cold calculation. Oh, I will, she said. And when I'm done, you'll wish you had never stepped foot in this house again. Terrence watched us like a man watching a building collapse with him still inside it. We're not done, Simone added. I know, I whispered. When I reached my room, I locked the door and collapsed onto the bed. My entire body was trembling with leftover adrenaline. I stared at the ceiling again. But this time, not because I was scared, because I was angry. No, that wasn't the right word. I was done. Done being the responsible one. Done being the quiet one. Done being the one they thought would bend. For years, I played the role they expected, the older sister with a strong back who carried everything while Simone made chaos and Terrence lived off excuses. But now they were trying to ruin me, financially, emotionally, physically, if they got desperate enough. And I wasn't going to let them. I sat up, grabbed my notebook again, and flipped to a fresh page. This time I wrote, The War Plan 1, protect myself, change bank passwords, lock credit reports, freeze all accounts, document everything. 2, expose their fraud, make copies of the forged documents, record every conversation, tell someone trustworthy. 3, prepare to move, store important items outside the house, keep emergency cash hidden, find temporary housing. 4, hit back, blank for now, because I didn't know what hitting back would look like yet. But I would. At 2:47 p.m., someone knocked on my door. Not a polite knock, a hard, sharp, demanding one. I didn't move. Keisha, Simone said from the hallway, open the door. No. Kesha, I'm not in the mood. Open the door. She sounded angry earlier. Now she sounded off, too controlled, too calm, the voice of someone who had already decided to do something, someone who had a plan. No, I repeated. Fine. Her footsteps retreated. I exhaled. Relief, but only for 3 seconds. Then, bang, I jumped. Another bang, another. Simone was slamming something, maybe her fist, maybe her whole body into the wall beside my door. You think you won, she screamed. You think I care about a stupid bank loan? I can get money another way. You don't even know the people I know. You don't know what I've been planning. You ruin everything. The banging grew louder, more frantic. Terrence's voice cut through the chaos. Simone, stop! She screamed again, a deep, raw sound. Then suddenly, silence, followed by a soft, chilling whisper. This house won't keep you safe. Footsteps, the front door opening, then slamming. Terrence tried calling after her, but Simone was already gone. I stayed in my room for the next hour, listening to Terrence pace the hallway in panic. Finally, he knocked gently. Keisha, he said, can we talk? No. Please, I don't know what she's going to do. I didn't answer. I didn't trust him any more than I trusted her. But his voice, shaky, nervous, made it clear that whatever Simone was planning, even he was scared of it. That meant it was bad, really bad. At 7:12 p.m. I got a text, not from Simone, from a number I didn't recognize. The message made my entire body freeze. Your sister says you like threats. Consider this one. You should move out tonight. Another message followed immediately. She's not finished with, you, sis. Then, and neither are we. My stomach dropped, my skin crawled, my blood ran cold. This wasn't just Simone anymore. She had brought someone else in, someone dangerous, someone willing to text threats openly. The house suddenly felt like a trap. The walls felt like they were closing in. My breathing changed, my chest tightened. She wasn't bluffing. She had people. People who would help her. People who didn't care if they broke laws or bones. My hands trembled as I shoved my important documents into my bag, passport, birth certificate, social security card, bank statements, the notebook. I didn't turn off the lights. I didn't check the windows. I didn't say anything to Terrence. I just grabbed my keys and walked out of the house I had lived in, paid for, cared for, but no longer felt safe in. As I got into my car, I looked at the front door one last time. I could feel the danger seeping through the walls. Simone wasn't trying to scare me. She was warning me. The real attack wasn't the bank, wasn't the argument, wasn't the threats. Something worse was coming. And tonight was only the beginning. I didn't remember turning the key. I didn't remember reversing out of the driveway. I didn't remember the streetlights passing in long, broken streaks of white across my windshield. All I remembered was one thing. I had to get away from that house. My pulse was still racing when I reached the end of the block. I didn't stop driving, not even when my hands started to shake so violently the steering wheel blurred. Simone's text, no, whoever sent that text, kept flashing in my mind. She's not finished with you. And neither are we. This wasn't jealousy anymore. This wasn't a sibling feud. This wasn't even about money now. This was about destroying me. Body, mind, life. I drove to the only place I could think of where Simone wouldn't look. The old employee parking lot behind Carter Memorial Hospital. I used to work shifts there years ago before I got my current job. The lot was half abandoned, cracked concrete with weeds pushing through the asphalt. Safe enough, dark enough, far enough from Simone's reach, for the moment. I parked under a broken light pole and killed the engine. My breathing was uneven as I pressed my forehead against the steering wheel. Everything I had built, my life, my savings, my stability, was hanging by threads Simone was actively cutting with scissors. I inhaled sharply and sat up straight. I needed a plan, a real one, not just a notebook full of ideas. I pulled out my phone. No new messages. Good. I opened the recording app and quietly said, I am documenting everything that happened tonight. Simone and someone with her sent me threats. They know where I live. They want me out of the house. They tried to commit fraud. They are escalating. Oh, they are dangerous. Now I paused. My own voice sounded foreign, tight, trembling, exhausted. I continued. I am scared for my safety. It hurt to admit out loud. Another deep breath. I ended the recording and saved it. That was step one. Now step two. I needed someone I could trust. Except my mind went blank because Simone had done a fantastic job over the years isolating me from everyone. Coworkers? No. Neighbors? Not safe. Family? Most of them loved Simone because she was good at playing victim when she needed to. Except A name hit me. Aunt Regina, my mother's older sister, the only person who had ever seen through Simone's sweetness to your face and venom behind your back personality. I dialed her before I could talk myself out of it. She answered on the fourth ring. Keisha? Baby, it's late. Auntie. My throat tightened. I need help. Her tone changed instantly. Where are you? Are you safe? No. The word came out too fast. I mean, yes, I'm in my car, but no, not really. Simone, something is wrong, really wrong. Tell me everything. So I did. All of it. The bank, the forged signatures, the fight, the threats, the mystery number texting me, the feeling in the house. The way Simone's eyes had changed, like something inside her snapped. Aunt Regina didn't interrupt, not once, but I could feel her breathing change through the phone. When I finally finished, she spoke quietly. Keisha, baby, you're not going back to that house. I had to leave. I didn't have a choice. No, she said firmer this time. I mean, you are never going back to that house, not unless it's with police. I exhaled shakily. I don't want to involve police yet. I don't have enough proof they're dangerous. You have forged documents, she said. You have threats. You have motive. You have... Auntie, my voice cracked. I know, but she's still my sister. Silence. A long, heavy silence. Then, Keisha, family is not the people who share your blood. It's the people who don't try to ruin your life. My eyes stung. Come here, she said. Come to my house, now. I don't want to drag you into this. Too late, she said. You're my niece. You're my responsibility before she ever was. And I've told your mother 1,000 times your sister was going to do something like this. I sniffed hard. I'm sorry. Don't apologize for being the sane one. A shaky laugh slipped out of me. Drive safe, she said softly, and lock your doors. Don't stop if a car follows you. I nodded, even though she couldn't see. I love you, Auntie. I love you too, baby. Come home, this Suat. 20-minute drive to her house felt like hours. Every headlight behind me made my heart jump. Every car that turned the same direction made my palms sweat. 3 times I thought Simone was following me. Twice I almost pulled over just to throw up. When I finally reached Aunt Regina's street, I parked 2 houses down and watched carefully. No cars, no movement, no sign of Simone. I exhaled deeply and drove into the driveway. Aunt Regina was already at the door in her robe and slippers. The moment I stepped inside, she wrapped me in a hug so tight my bones protested. Oh, baby, she whispered. You must have been terrified. I was. She kept holding me until my shaking stopped. Then she led me to the couch, brought me warm water, and sat down beside me. Start again, she said gently, from the beginning. So I did, every detail, everything I had been holding in for days. And as I talked, something strange happened. Aunt Regina got angrier, but not at me, at Simone. When I mentioned the forged papers, she clenched her jaw so hard the muscles twitched. When I mentioned the argument, she muttered, ungrateful brat. When I mentioned the threats, she stood up completely. All right, she said, pacing. We're calling the police tomorrow. No, don't argue. Auntie, I need more proof. Right now, it's just texts. I can't prove it was Simone. She stopped pacing. Keisha, she said quietly, there's something I didn't want to tell you. My stomach tightened. She walked slowly back to the couch, sat beside me, held my hands in hers. Then she said, you don't know everything about Simone. My heart dropped. What does that mean? Aunt Regina sighed like the weight of 10 years sat on her shoulders. Your mother kept things from you, she said, to protect you, to avoid shaming Simone. But now, I don't think hiding anything will help. Auntie, what are you talking about? She looked right into my eyes. Simone has done this before. My breath caught. Done what? Stolen from people, forged things, used other people's information, manipulated banks, blackmailed people. My blood ran cold. What? When? Before she came back home, Aunt Regina said, in the city where she and Terrence were living. She got involved with a very bad crowd, not just scammers, people who use threats to get what they want. I stared at her in disbelief. Why didn't I know? Because your mother thought she could fix her, Aunt Regina said. She always believed Simone would grow out of it, that she was just lost, that love would save her. Tears gathered in my eyes. But it didn't. No, Aunt Regina shook her head slowly. Simone didn't grow out of it. She grew into... I swallowed hard. My hands began to shake again. She owes people money, Keisha. My lungs froze. And if they told you to leave the house tonight, Aunt Regina added softly, it's because they want what Simone promised them. What did she promise? I whispered. She squeezed my hand. The house, she said, and anything they could take from you. My entire body went cold. Simone wasn't just trying to steal from me. She was trying to save herself by sacrificing me. My voice trembled. So those texts, they weren't empty threats? No, baby. Aunt Regina shook her head. They were warnings. Tears spilled down my cheeks. Everything hurt. Everything made sense. Everything felt worse now that it was confirmed. Aunt Regina pulled me into another hug. You're safe here, she whispered, but we need a strategy. Simone won't stop. And if those people think you are an obstacle... Her voice trailed off. My chest tightened. What do? I whispered. She straightened, wiping my cheeks gently. You fight smart, she said. You protect yourself legally and physically. You document everything. You stop thinking of Simone as family. My heart cracked. But most importantly, she added, you stay away from that house until we figure out that exactly how deep Simone is in. I nodded slowly. Then my phone buzzed, a text from the same unknown number. My hands shook as I opened it. You left sooner than we expected. Another text followed instantly. We'll see you again soon. Don't get comfortable. My breath caught. Aunt Regina grabbed the phone from my hand before panic could swallow me. She read it, her face hardening into something like steel. She set the phone down on the table. We're going to war, she said calmly. And this time, you are not fighting alone. For the first time in days, I felt something other than fear. I felt strength, not because I was ready, but because I wasn't alone anymore. Simone wanted a war. She was about to get one. A war she never expected. A war she could not win.